Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be watching us today. In this video, we will talk about the bones of the lower limb. We will adopt a top to bottom approach starting with the hip or coxal bone. The hip or the coxal bone is formed by the fusion of three structures: the ilium, the pubis, and the ischium in the acetabulum. The hip or coxal bone articulates with the sacrum at the sacroiliac joint to form the pelvic girdle. Let's start with the ilium, the largest of the three components. The ilium forms the lateral part of the hip bone, and it consists of the body, as shown here, which joins the pubis and the ischium to form the acetabulum. It also consists of the ala or the wing, which forms the iliac crest. Other parts of the ilium include the anterior superior iliac spine or the ASIS, the anterosuperior iliac spine, the anteroinferior iliac spine directly below the ASIS, the posterior inferior iliac spine, the greater sciatic notch. The greater sciatic notch in the anterior view is over here. The iliac fossa and the gluteal lines. The pubis forms the anterior part of the acetabulum and the anteromedial part of the hip bone. It also has a body which articulates at the symphysis pubis. It has the superior pubic ramus over here, which enters the formation of the acetabulum, and the inferior pubic ramus, which joins the ramus of the ischium, which is a part of the obturator foramen over here. The obturator foramen. Finally, we have the ischium in olive. The ischium forms the posterior-inferior part of the acetabulum and the lower posterior part of the hip bone. The ischium also has a body which joins the ilium and the superior ramus of the pubis to form the acetabulum. The ischium has a prominent ischial spine over here, an ischial tuberosity. The ischial tuberosity is actually the part of the hip bone which we feel when we sit down, and the lesser sciatic notch. We recall that the greater sciatic notch is actually a part of the ilium, but the lesser sciatic notch is from the ischium. The acetabulum is an incomplete cup-shaped cavity on the lateral side of the hip bone in which the femoral head fits. Next, we have the femur. The femur is actually the longest and the strongest bone of the body. It has a head over here. The head forms about two-thirds of a sphere and is directed medially, upward, and slightly forward to fit into the acetabulum. It has a depression in its articular surface, shown here in the dotted line, which is called the fovea capitis femoris. The fovea capitis femoris, the depression of the femoral head in its articular surface, to which the ligamentum capitis femoris attaches. Directly below the femoral head is the neck, which of course connects the head to the femoral body or shaft. The femoral neck has an angle of about 125 degrees, and it is a common site of fractures. It is separated from the shaft in front by the intertrochanteric line over here. The intertrochanteric line is the attachment of the iliofemoral ligament. The Intertrochanteric line is actually the connection between the greater and the lesser trochanters, which are protrusions in the femur. The greater trochanter projects upward from the junction of the neck with the shaft, and it is the insertion of the gluteus medius and minimus, the piriformis muscle, and the obturator internus muscles. The greater trochanter receives the obturator externus tendon on the medial aspect of the trochanteric fossa. The lesser trochanter, on the opposite side, lies in the angle between the neck and the shaft, and it projects at the interior end of the intertrochanteric line. The lesser trochanter is the insertion of the iliopsoas tendon. The iliopsoas tendon. The linea aspera, though not shown here, is a rough ridge on the shaft of the femur itself. The linea aspera exhibits lateral and medial lips that provide attachments for many muscles and the three intermuscular septa. Finally, the pectineal line. The pectineal line runs from the lesser trochanter to the medial lip of the linea aspera, and the pectineal line provides an insertion for, as the name suggests, the pectineus muscle. Let's have a quick quiz. This is a typical radiograph of the hip taken in AP or anteroposterior projection. The first block structure over here is the ascis, or the anterior superior iliac spine of the right ilium. Shown here is the greater trochanter, and of course, if there is a greater trochanter, opposite it is the lesser trochanter over here. The other blocked structure in the left of the ischium is the anteroinferior iliac spine. The anteroinferior iliac spine, of course, being directly below the ascis. Moving down now to the bones of the lower limb, immediately noticeable is the patella over here. The patella or the kneecap is the largest sesamoid bone located within the tendon of the quadriceps femoris. It articulates with the femur but not with the tibia. The patella attaches to the tibial tuberosity by a continuation of the quadriceps tendon called the patellar ligament. What is the function of the patella? The patella actually obviates wear and tear on the quadriceps tendon as it passes across the trochlear groove. It also increases the angle of pull of the quadriceps femoris, thereby increasing its power. Below the patella, below the femoral shaft, are two important lower extremity bones, the tibia and the fibula. The larger of the two is the tibia, and it is the weight-bearing medial bone of the leg. It has a prominence called the tibial tuberosity into which the patellar ligament inserts. It also has medial and lateral condyles that articulate with the condyles of the femur. Inferiorly, the tibia has a projection called the medial malleolus. The medial malleolus serves as the attachment for tendons of the tibialis posterior and the flexor digitorum longus muscles. It also provides attachment for the deltoid ligament. The thinner and smaller of the two, the fibula. The fibula actually has no function in weight bearing, but it serves as an attachment for several muscles. Superiorly, it has a head, also known as the apex, that provides attachment for the fibular collateral ligament of the knee. It also has a projection inferiorly called the lateral malleolus, the lateral malleolus of the tibia, or rather of the fibula, which serves as the attachment for the anterior talofibular, posterior talofibular, and the calcaneofibular ligaments. We have several important clinical correlates for the bones mentioned thus far. The first we will discuss is a fracture called Putz fracture, also known as Dupuytren's fracture. Putz or Dupuytren's fracture is a fracture of the lower end of the fibula over here. It is often also accompanied by fracture of the adjacent medial malleolus of the tibia or rupture of the deltoid ligament. The cause of Putz fracture is usually forced eversion of the foot. Another important fracture is pillion fracture. Pillion fracture is a fracture this time of the distal femur. It is T-shaped, usually T-shaped, and it also causes displacement of the condyles. Usually, a pillion fracture is caused by a blow to the flexed knee of a person riding on a motorcycle. A third important fracture is a fracture of the fibular neck, as is demonstrated here. A fracture of the fibular neck can cause injury to the common peroneal nerve. This is significant because paralysis can result in all of the muscles in the anterior and the lateral compartments of the ipsilateral leg, as these are supplied by the common peroneal nerve. The net result is that there is dorsiflexion and eversion of the foot, which is described as a foot drop. Fracture of the fibular neck can compromise the common peroneal nerve, eventually causing foot drop. Foot drop. Finally, let's go into the bones of the foot. Starting from proximally to distally, we have the tarsus. The tarsus is comprised of 7 tarsal bones, starting here with the talus, the calcaneus, the navicular bone, the cuboid bone, and 3 cuneiform bones. Let's start with the talus. The talus transmits the weight of the body from the tibia to the foot, and it is the only tarsal bone without any muscular attachments. It has a neck with a deep groove, the sulcus tali, for the interosseous ligaments between the talus and the calcaneus. Speaking of the calcaneus over here, it is the largest and the strongest bone of the foot, and it lies below the talus. It forms the heel of the foot, and it articulates with the talus superiorly and the cuboid anteriorly. The calcaneus is the attachment of the Achilles tendon, and it has a shelf-like medial projection called the sustentaculum tali. The sustentaculum tali over here supports the head of the talus. Moving more distally still is the navicular bone. The navicular bone over here is a boat-shaped tarsal bone lying between the head of the talus and the 3 cuneiform bones in front of it. Lateral to the navicular is the cuboid over here, the cuboid bone. It is the most laterally placed tarsal bone, and it has a groove over here for the peroneus longus muscle. The peroneus longus muscle. Distally The most distal of the tarsal bones are the cuneiforms. We have three cuneiform bones. These are all wedge-shaped bones that form a part of the medial longitudinal and the proximal transverse arches. We have the medial cuneiform, the intermediate cuneiform, and the lateral cuneiform. In front of the cuneiforms, distally to them are the metatarsus. The metatarsus consists of 5 metatarsals and has prominent medial and lateral sesamoid bones on the first metatarsal. Distally still are the phalanges. We have 14 phalangeal bones for each foot. There are 2 in the first digit, and for the rest of the other digits, we have 3 each. 2 phalanges for the first digit, 3 for the rest. Finally, let us conclude again with a quiz to refresh ourselves. This is a radiograph, this time of an ankle and foot taken in lateral projection. The first block structure over here is the calcaneus. This is actually the heel of the foot. Next here would be the cuboid anterior to the calcaneus. And the wedge-shaped bone over here is the navicular. And in front of the navicular are the 3 cuneiform bones. The other labeled bones here are the distal fibula, distal tibia. Of course, we have the tarsus over here, the metatarsals, and finally the phalanges of the foot.